Does the channel provide value?
Focus on the foundation.
I am a travel vlogger.
It's always about communication.
Build those partnerships.
What are the problems that you solve for your clients?
Just being ahead on the technological side of things.
Leading an organization.
You not only want to survive, but you want to thrive. They said it wouldn't last, and they said that you can't drive profitable and incremental revenue through the affiliate channel. But here we are, 20 years later, and the affiliate channel is alive and kicking and generating profitable revenue for thousands of retailers across the globe. Hi, I am Jamie Birch, your host of the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast, where we talk to some of the industry's best and brightest about their careers, about leadership, and about how to drive profitable revenue through the affiliate channel. Hey, this is Jamie Birch with the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast and your award-winning affiliate management agency, JEBCommerce.com. Today, I have a special guest, Jamie Tapia Barr. Before I introduce you, let me talk about one thing we have for you. Then I'll introduce Jamie to you. So if you are wondering how can you effectively control your costs in all your digital channels, specifically in the affiliate marketing channel, can you lower your customer acquisition cost and increase revenue? Well, you definitely can. We put together a case study that you can go to JEBCommerce.com/acquisition cost and get access to this case study. And we talk about advanced commission structures, innovative technology, and promotional structures and planning that we've used to help our clients increase revenue and decrease customer acquisition costs. So go to JEBCommerce.com/acquisition cost. Now, getting back to our guest today, Jamie Tapia Barr. Jamie actually used to work for me a decade ago. She started her career. She started it at JEBCommerce, and since then has worked for multiple agencies as well as advertisers internally as their affiliate manager. And she's done some amazing things. So today we talk about a bunch of stuff ranging from the elections. This is actually being recorded on the eve of our election. And we talk about how that impacts our planning for the rest of Q4. Definitely something you want to listen to. So we talk about her career path and some of the pivotal decisions she made, how she makes those, as well as going into keys of project management and how to plan for Q4 and kind of what to do now if you're scrambling on what to do. So lots of great information in this episode. Jamie, thank you for joining us. Let's dive right into the conversation. All right, Jamie, thank you for joining me on the Profitable Performance Marketing Podcast. It is great to have another Jamie on the program, as well as another former JEBer.
Yes. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm such a nerd. I love talking about this stuff all the time. So do it.
That's awesome. We are chatting on the eve of an election. We don't have to get into politics. By the time people are listening to this, the next, a big event will have happened. Are you following this? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you like, just get it over with?
I have a little bit of just get it over with at this point. I think I must share something online every single day about please vote. I'm sure everyone that actually looks at anything that I post has already voted. So it's a little bit like shouting to the void, but I'm definitely really nervous, anxious, last time around, I remember I was on the East Coast. So I went to bed before things were finished. I went to bed thinking we were going to have our first female president, and woke up to something completely different. So I will be definitely paying attention to what's happening, and it has a lot of impacts, and also just even with day to day for the programs that I manage, there's a lot of things you have to kind of consider the day after. If things aren't finished, then you might want to hold off on placements and things like that. So it's a lot you kind of have to pay attention, even if you don't want to be.
Yeah, and I've tried to not pay attention, but so much in what you just said, I want to, if we can, I want to dive into.
Yeah.
You recently just moved from, is it Boston?
Yeah, I was in Boston for 4 years.
Hey, wow. And now you're back in the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho area.
Yeah, I'm back, back to the homeland, if you will.
Yeah. And
Um,
so that's got to be quite different this election cycle, for
yeah,
those two areas, right?
100%. It's been a bit of an adjustment for both my husband and myself. Um, I just feel like too, it's also feels really different this time around, in terms of, before I left versus now. I feel like this area has changed a lot. And I
Hmm.
don't know if that's just, things that have happened over the last 4 years, or maybe it was stuff that was always around and I just didn't notice, and maybe I wasn't paying attention. Um, but it's definitely, you know, definitely more liberal in Boston, I'll say.
Yeah, 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 and things feel heightened,
Yes.
and more raw than they
Mhm.
did the last 4 years ago. I know, I've been pretty successful at avoiding most of this, and or just avoiding getting caught up in it
Yeah.
for extended periods of time, trying to stay informed. And I literally observed my anxiety level this morning start to climb throughout the day as I realized what the next 24 hours, and like you said, we don't necessarily know when this will be
No.
decided, and
Mhm.
so it'll be really interesting. One thing you mentioned is your programs that you're managing. So we'll definitely get into your background, but you've been doing this. I was looking, and you've been doing this for almost a decade.
I know. It's crazy.
It is crazy, isn't it? And so one of the things I'd love to dive into today that you mentioned is how this whole election impacts what we do as affiliate managers going forward. And you brought that up. So mention what are you looking at from an affiliate manager perspective, not necessarily a voter perspective, but what are you looking at to happen? What do you need to be cognizant of and watching over the next day, week or so?
Well, I think one thing that has been more difficult to manage than usual in just the last year, there's so much stuff happening that um, everyone has been, I would say, more vocal about opinions than ever before, and keeping less of a neutral tone in a lot of stuff that they do, that has since like affected things that, like some of the partnerships that we work with, specifically more so with like niche affiliates or influencers, for example, having to break ties with some who, a lot of stuff has happened. So like that's something that, I mean, when you have literally hundreds of people in your program, it's really hard to manage every single, like I can't look through every single person's post for the last 10 years to make sure that
Yeah.
they're not, no secret surprises. And I
Yep.
think
Yep.
that it's just a time to be vigilant and aware that that is something that you need to kind of pay attention to. And not only that, but the other channels that affiliate interacts with in general. Just as a team, we have to just be aware of what's going on in order to just be smart about timing and placements, because it's it's right now, for example, it's just like shouting into the void because there's so much going on every minute that it's kind of a waste of money to do a placement. And then if we had something planned a few days after, like everyone's starting a lot of Black Friday deals, for example, so like not wanting to time them just enough so that they start getting attention when things are settled. I do think the next, regardless of what happens tomorrow, the next few months are going to be crazy either way. I don't think that election stuff is really going to settle after this.
Yeah.
Um, it's just going to continue to be turmoil. So just keeping aware of what's going on and making sure that things are timely, and it's going to be like money well spent. Um, so yeah, I think that.
So basically, like you can't not watch this
Yeah. Yeah,
because you
can't go
have to
anywhere.
react. I learned that lesson in the first election of George W. Bush, in
Mhm.
that probably that was one of the first elections in when I had a professional career,
Mhm.
and seeing how that uncertainty of the hanging Chad in Florida,
Mhm.
how that impacted sales. So we can talk about politics all day long, but at the end of the day, podcast is about performance marketing and revenue. And I noticed like when the more and the longer that held off, people didn't know what to do. And
Yeah.
so they didn't make decisions. And the only thing that we could kind of figure out is I'm just not spending anything right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and you're saying essentially the same thing, knowing that this could be decided tomorrow, but it could not.
Right. And also they're just it's, as a, like you said, as a performance marketer and just, you know, for me, like being part of a team that manages everything, it's very much you you have to pay attention to what's happening all the time, to make sure that you don't do anything insensitive or sometimes pre-planning, backs you into a corner if you're too advanced in planning with stuff and then you're not agile enough to make changes or what have you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's get into your background. And so, for the few people who don't know who you are, Jamie, I did it. I said Jamie. I combined the words. I said that I wasn't going to, but Jamie Tapia Barr. You've been doing this for a long time. Talk to me about when you started and each of your career steps.
Yeah, okay, sure. I'm sure there are a lot of people who don't know what who I am, but yeah. So as you well know, I started working for you about 10 years ago or so, and I started as an assistant manager to a few programs there at JEB, and pretty fresh out of college, and I remember thinking that it was unfortunate that my degree, which was in marketing, was, had not learned anything about affiliate marketing. Um, so I remember that being a big takeaway of my interview with you at the time. But yeah, so since I worked with you for a few years, managed a lot of fun programs. I like to joke that I've managed everything from Bibles to grass-fed beef and
Yeah.
from coast to coast. So um, yeah, I've done a lot of different.
And really big brands and really tiny brands.
Yes, the very small, no-name brands to some pretty big ones. The most recent one I worked on was a men's clothing apparel that has like 300 brick and mortar stores, but also, everything from I managed the Forever 21 program, Lord and Taylor, and many many others. So a lot of different types of brands, and yeah, I did. I've been doing that for about 10 years, and I've worked on the agency side a few times, as well as I've worked for several brands directly. And like I said, also from coast to coast. I've been in California, I've been in Boston. So right now, I am doing just some consulting stuff and doing some contract project management work for one of my past employers, Embark Vet. They're a Boston-based dog DNA testing company. So again, really just done everything.
Wow.
So yeah, so I'm doing that right now. I it's just a team that I love working with. I've been working with them for almost 2 years now, on and off, and um, it's a fun product to work with. So I manage their affiliate program, and then also I do the project management stuff for a holiday team stuff.
Awesome. We definitely wanted to dive into some project management stuff. Now, why, and we talked about this on the prep call, and I can't remember, why do people get their dog's DNA tested?
Oh, a very good question. And it's one that I definitely had before I worked here. I also didn't have I don't have a dog, unfortunately. But
I have several. Are you looking for one? That we could make that happen really
oh my
fast.
gosh, my cat would not be pleased with me. But yeah, people will get a dog DNA test for a couple different reasons. I think the main one that's most common anyway is if you have a mixed breed dog, you just get to find out sort of what breeds make up your dog, and that can help you with health issues that may come up or training issues. So if you have a dog who's doing doing certain things that you don't like. For example, learning what type of dog they are might help you figure out the best way to train them. So if they're like a type of herding dog, for example, there might be special tools that will help you with that. And if you didn't know their breed makeup, you might just get mad at your dog all the time. And then also for health, like some breeds are genetically predisposed to certain health conditions. So if you know that they are that breed, when you're working with your vet that is something that sort of helps narrow the field down instead of doing broad testing.
Awesome. Thank you for that non-affiliate answer there. I know we do it with horses to get a good feel. If you don't have papers on them, you get a good idea of what their background is and what they'll be good at and things like that. So totally makes sense. So tell me, like early on in your career, are there things that are still valid in affiliate marketing, fundamentals that you carried through to even now consulting, managing and working with programs? Are there things that have stayed tried and true?
Yeah, for sure. I think those fundamentals that I learned when I was working with you are definitely still valid. Even just from basic program auditing, there's a lot of programs that I come on that the first thing I do is the same stuff that I did 10 years ago on programs, when you just do a deep dive. And that seems like a really obvious thing, but there's a lot of, sometimes you just don't have time to do it, or it's just something that you're like, you need to do, but it doesn't get done. And I think that's one thing when you bring on a consultant, or if you hire a new, if you had it in-house and you're thinking of doing agency, it's one of the first things that you would want to have done. I feel like you can't move forward if you don't know where you've been, sort of. So, there's a lot of learnings from the basic auditing of programs that I think is just always going to be something that I always do. And it just makes it easy to identify opportunities and see what you're missing, or what has worked in the past and what maybe for some reason you're not doing anymore. And I think that this happens a lot, especially with companies that I feel like, in my experience, that affiliate is a channel that gets passed on a lot. It's hardly ever given a dedicated person. You might know this from all your agency experience, but you're always getting a new contact, and it's just something that I feel like because of that handover, it just like it's never like a super well managed machine. Whereas if you have the same person managing it for a long time, there's a good and bad, right? So you are able to have all these efficiencies in how you're managing the program, but then maybe there's a lot of learnings that it's hard to like document for a program. So that when things get passed on a lot, you miss out on those learnings, and you just have to keep retesting things. So, again, that all bakes down to the fundamentals that if you do those auditing periodically, it just helps sort of drive the program and keep some consistency with the program when it gets passed along.
Yeah, we've had one client, we stopped counting at new contacts at 22.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was in less than 2 years.
Yeah. It makes it really hard to make any progress on a program like that.
It does, and they were in the travel category, and so they were obviously hit very hard in March. Right. And had to, pretty much just stop everything. And at the end, we had them for 7-8 years. And at the end, the only historical knowledge was the two CEOs, me and the founder of the organization. And that is crazy, and so we've had to come up with ways to keep that history the same, keep track of that to get so you can go back and look at that. What do you think is like the biggest thing in that audit when you're taking over a program, or you're when you became landed those positions inside the advertiser? What is like the most important thing or most overlooked aspect of that audit that our listeners should be aware of, that they should be looking at?
Well, I think it's definitely been what you come up from the audit is a lot of things that, like the way the program was managed previously, and it's changes that, for example, I worked for a company where the CEO had also, or the CMO had changed over a couple times in the last like 2 years. So there's a lot of things that kind of got dropped for the program. And then when I came on, they're like, why are sales down so much from last year? And like, it was like a super easy answer, but no one knew the answer until I looked through the program and like had to dig around. So who was, who was down, and then literally having to reach out to that partner and talk to them because no one had consistently been like managing the program. And it was something like, maybe last year they had, search rights and this year they don't, or, a number of things like that, an ongoing placement that got removed or something like that. And I think it's just something that is constantly without, continued management. Like it would seem like the program was doing very poorly, but it wasn't even apples to apples from the previous year. Yeah, it's hard to say. I feel like there's not like any one thing that it does take some experience to be able to review everything, and just sometimes at a glance you kind of notice something that someone without experience would not know to look for. It's hard to.
Yeah, you find that little thread that you got to kind of pull on. You're not sure what's behind that data point. You got to keep diving into it until you're able to find enough to interpret what's going on.
Right, and I think that as a manager, you really find yourself. It's almost like being a detective. I feel like I like will find every website this affiliate owns, and I'll go to all those pages and I'll try and find. I will be a detective for the program, and that, I think that might be the best way to describe it, because there's so many times where you can't figure out, maybe why someone is doing well and or why they stopped doing well, and you have to, using the Wayback Machine or just like any sort of like, I just need some reason why this did good before and is not doing good now.
So. Do you remember the Rex Swain HTTP viewer?
That sounds very familiar.
We would use it to find the journey of the link.
Oh, right.
To find the affiliate that's truly behind it. I actually had to use it again today.
Oh, really?
We were on with a prospect. Yeah. And she's like, I have this affiliate. I have no idea who they are or how they're doing this thing. And we're able to, in a few minutes, find that out by just following a short code link all the way to the merchant. But yeah, that's great. That whole discovery process is super important. Tell me about your career. What were some of the most important decisions you made? How did you make them as someone, that started, entry level a decade ago, and you've had some pretty awesome positions. You've been in agencies and in advertisers. That brings up a whole slew of questions that I have for you. But for our listeners who are maybe just starting out, how did you make, what were the important moves that you did make? How did you make those?
I think that as far as, career path goes, it's sometimes there's like a lot of opportunity and sometimes there's not, during different times of your life. And sometimes for me, like the first big move I made was out of state, right? So for me, it was a lot of my, I feel like a lot of my career decisions have been just looking for personal growth as well as professional growth. So I think with that, if I had to say, that's really what's, I think, driven me a lot of different places, and finding the right opportunity. I think as I get older, I am more choosy with those positions that I take in terms of what I really want. And for me, it's as I get older, it's more about like how it will affect my personal life, and keeping that work-life balance is so important. And also the team that you're working with is so important. So, like, I'm happy to work for a company. Maybe I make a little less than another job I could have taken, but I know that the relationships that I have with that company make my day to day happier. So, um, I feel like in that way it's more because you have to be happy wherever you're at. So I think making sure that that fit is there has been probably the biggest driver for me in more recent years. I think as far as if I could give someone some advice, would just really be to learn as much as you can from anyone and pretty much everyone that you talk with. Maybe find a mentor, and if you can't find someone who can mentor you on an ongoing basis, just really taking any any opportunity to like steal mentoring moments from people. It sounds kind of weird, but like having conversations with someone, any of your superiors or supervisors or whatever, other people in the company that you work for, and just kind of learn as much as you can and just take that, and it helps you build relationships. There's a lot of relationships that I've built that I still have from, at least one or two people from every company I've worked for that I still talk to, and I'm still I still network with, and vice versa, that, those are things that I, will carry with you, and you never know what that's going to bring you later on. And also, I guess, just don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's really hard I feel like for me anyway, it's been really hard sometimes to make a choice to leave somewhere you're comfortable with. But in order to learn and grow, for me, it was really important just to try something different. So yeah, I think that might sum that up.
Those are all great. I love the stealing mentoring moments. Give me a little more of what that looks like.
So it's kind of like anytime you're in the room with someone who you can tell is like someone that you would want to learn from, like ask them some questions that maybe aren't related to whatever it is you're talking to. Steal some mentoring from them in a way, like ask them, something about their career or just something that, like, where they got where they are or something like that, or anything that they recommend for stuff. I remember talking to a product manager a while back about, what it takes to get into that field, and we were just literally walking around the city, and I was just like, oh, what does this, what would someone who wants to do this need to learn, or like, what recommendations do you have for like a class, or maybe a website that you read a lot, stuff like that, you just kind of got to take it where you can sometimes in terms of finding opportunities to learn new things.
So you've worked at, you've been in an agency on multiple occasions, and you've been an advertiser on multiple occasions. Yeah. So that must give you a really unique view of the common problems we're dealing with in affiliate marketing and how each group solves them. Was there something like deeply held in agencies before you went to an advertiser, and then did you have a realization of how they handled things, or that brought a deeper understanding of the issue of the affiliate marketing issue? Anything like that in that transition from agency to advertiser?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting going from agency to brand. I know, like on the agency side, sometimes it's really hard to understand why a merchant won't move forward with something. Maybe it's like you pitch a new affiliate, or you pitch some sort of special offer or something just for affiliates, or really a lot of different things, and it takes so long for them to get back to you, and you're like, I don't understand why this would take so long just to move forward with like a simple approval or something. And being on the brand side of some really big companies and some really small ones, it definitely makes more sense when you see the bigger picture of why things take as long as they are. Maybe it's a legal issue, or maybe it's sometimes you have a upper level C-level person who wants their hands in everything, and it just, even though approval takes forever, they still want, it's hard to be limber, I guess. And now I kind of understand more so why. And then also there's just so much bigger picture that when you're just on the agency side that you really just don't get to see. And that's like, it's unfortunate because there's so much that you can learn. For one, you can learn about just like how that business operates, but also like if from the agency side, you're able to work more closely, like I do as the brand's affiliate manager, there's a lot of opportunity where if you could marry the two in a little bit better way, it would just take more time. But basically, like there's a lot more opportunities to work together. For example, this might not make sense, but for example, when I work with a company and as a brand inside the brand, seeing like the bigger campaign, I'm able to, as part of the team, I'm able to like really incorporate all the different ways affiliate can play a role in it. Whereas a lot of times when you're at an agency, you just get handed down whatever it is that they've already decided, and then you implement, which does work, obviously, but it's a missed opportunity for affiliates to play a bigger role in some of the company's campaigns, whether that be, bigger engagement role or, whatever that might be. There's just a lot of things that I feel like gets missed because, as the agency, you're not in those brand pitch meetings, you know what I mean? So, where
there's a filtering process that it gets to you through, right?
Exactly.
Through to different filters and different windows of looking at it. It's distilled down to key things you need to know, but you don't get the whole picture.
Exactly. And it's too bad, because there is definitely more opportunity. So there's definitely a benefit for having, a in-person person. But at the same time, obviously, the agency is, very effective for getting the work done. And there's just no way like someone from an agency could sit in on every meeting, so.
Yeah. And we've had clients who have asked us to do that.
Yeah.
And we tried.
Capable, really.
Now, some of the big issues that we deal with in affiliate space, is always the defense of the channel. You mentioned it earlier of the channel kind of gets handed from one person to the other. Most of the time it's like that, or there's no one actively managing it, or it's part of a job. Since you've been on both sides of the fence, how do you communicate internally the importance of the channel? Like how do you get them to move when you're there inside the organization and view the channel differently?
I think a lot of time it's even just reminding people that the channel can do certain things, just to keep it in top of mind. It's like, affiliate isn't just a bottom of the funnel situation. It's definitely more high level than that. And there's a lot of opportunity if allowed, basically. And I feel like a lot of merchants don't see it that way for whatever reason, could be, I just feel like it comes from a real lack of understanding for the channel and what it's like, what it can do. But I think that for me, again, just reiterating as often as like, oh, well, affiliate, we could do this in affiliate with this campaign, or, and then also just providing receipts, if you will, in terms of like, you let me do this, like, let's just test this and I'll show you what it can do. And also I feel like playing within their rules. There's a lot of merchants I've worked with who have different attribution rules. And when that comes up, I'll take it in any way they'll let me, because a lot of times, like I said, it just gets played as it's only a bottom of the funnel channel. And I think being able to prove that it's not by all the sales that like, look, I jumped through all your hoops and I still have all these sales. So
Yeah.
how could you possibly still think this is all that this channel has to offer? But I feel like it's just always a struggle, having to, you just have to keep at it, I think. And, even after, years of working with a merchant, it's still just like a preconceived notion. I feel like that, all you can do is, keep at it.
Yeah. And it seems to be, it's a trust issue, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether trusting the channel or it's a holdover from a decade, 2 decades ago of some pretty nefarious behavior and on affiliates, and the tracking wasn't as complex and kind of well thought out as it is now. And that it sounds like that's what you would use suggesting, and you've done that transparency. Yeah, hey, give me your rules.
Yep.
Okay, now we're going to work in this area. Here's what we got. Yep. That transparency of like, here is the data, and now can we move forward? It's definitely something we do here as well. But it seems to be a constant.
Yes.
It's 10 years. You and I are talking about this. Add another 10, and I've been talking about it for that long.
Sure.
And it still comes up. Now, you have mentioned project management in our prep call, something you're very passionate about. Tell me, what that is. I know it's a whole. I know my sister went into project management at one point and did a really good presentation at JEB once on that. But what is project management? Why is it important?
Let's see. I feel like project management is definitely something that you do whether you realize you're doing it or not. Especially, I think, at an agency, because you're, when you're managing multiple clients, you just have to kind of compartmentalize them, and each thing is its own project in a way. I feel like project management really is just keeping everything and everyone on the same page and on task for moving whatever that project is forward. So, having one person as the point person for really any project is just super helpful, obviously. And with the larger the campaign, the more apparent that is. So, for example, right now, the project I'm working on is just the holiday, for this, for the for Embark. And, that consists of everything from creating video assets to, on-site design and all of the keeping track of all of the different teams, from distribution to customer service to just like everyone. It's like an all hands on deck situation. And without, a main person managing the project, it can be a lot of side conversations that do affect the big picture. And so when you have one person accountable, I feel like it just helps the whole project move forward more smoothly. And in this case, it's I'm just doing the holiday for Embark. And, as someone who was at Embark when there wasn't a project manager, I feel like we're like at least a month ahead of where we were last year in terms of like making sure we have everything, and also just the pre-planning involved. We were able to, like, for example, so we knew ahead of time what projects we needed to have done in terms of creative. So the team was able to hire a whole nother designer, because we knew the creative need was going to be much more than we had literal time to do it. And I feel like if we hadn't been so organized ahead of time, that, we would have been scrambling mid-November trying to finish assets. So,
which is never good at this time of the year, and especially this year.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, it's just crazy busy, and I feel like, just again, holding people accountable. Really, I feel like I'm just the person who bugs everyone all day long. Hey, where are we at with this? Hey, what's going on with this? How's it going? How are you doing?
Yeah. And so are there tools that you use, or do you develop them yourselves? I know in the past we've used simple like Gantt charts, and you probably remember, especially with our launches, way back when of those Excel spreadsheets that
Yes.
had who was in charge, who was responsible, all that sort of thing.
Yes.
Have you found other tools that you use, or is it simply just here are all the things that need to get done and who owns it and I'm tracking it?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of great project management tools and software that you can use. I I'm not using any of them, not because I wouldn't want to, but I got sort of thrown in midway for this project, and they had already kind of been keeping track of things in a certain way, so it just made sense to continue on with this project as it is. But yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of tools online for it. I think that for me, one thing I just in general find helpful is um, after getting the lay of the land and understanding the scope of the project and things, give it a couple weeks and then really revisit the scope and deliverables just to see if anything has evolved, because it does. It's like a big evolving project. So um, there's a lot of times where there's things that we don't need that were originally in scope for the project, and just keeps things more efficient just to continue to review that, especially in the beginning, because I feel like once things get moving, it's a little bit different. But initially, I think the first few times you are working on a project, it's still very much evolving. And another thing is, we've been keeping a weekly sync. We just have it on the calendar already for like the next 3 months, because just giving sometimes it's like really hard to find time for everyone to meet if you are scheduling as needed. But if you already have it sort of pre on the calendar, you can always cancel a meeting if you don't need it. But sometimes finding even 30 minutes for everyone when you're dealing with 20 plus people is like impossible if you
Yeah.
don't do it ahead of time. So having that is super helpful. And yeah, and then also obviously making sure you have all the right key stakeholders input along the way, because the last thing you want to do is get all this work done and then ask someone who should have looked at it early on and have to make a bunch of changes. So
Yeah. Now talk to me about that, because one thing about affiliate marketing that I've noticed is we talked about earlier, it kind of gets handed off to everyone. And a lot of times it gets handed off to someone who hasn't had a lot of formal education in project management and other areas. And they have to kind of figure all this stuff out. Stakeholders, what are those? How do you identify them? Why are they important?
yeah, well, key stakeholders is really anyone who has who needs to have input on a project. For us, it's obviously like your direct supervisor. A lot of times it's a CMO or even a CEO or both. Um, and and then also a lot of times there's other people on other teams that are key stakeholders. So like if you need to deal with the product person to make changes on the site, that is outside of like the e-commerce platform that you're using. So stuff like that, I think it is sometimes hard to identify, but I think for me, I'm at a bit of an advantage working within Bark right now, because I've been here for a while, so I already know a lot of the stakeholders in the company. But I think, I think if you're not sure, asking questions and trying to figure out who's the right person, but also just in general, making sure you know who the people are on the team that are like people who are actually signing off on stuff, to make sure that they are always in the loop on where you're at with the project.
Yeah. In one of my very first jobs, I failed to identify some of the key decision makers, and they weren't in the department, but they had such influence on what I did in affiliate marketing that it took me 24 months to realize
Yeah.
that I have to build a relationship with them, that I need to bring these things to them just as I'm bringing to my direct supervisor, because the way that they make decisions above me in the hierarchy, this person has no understanding of what I'm doing, and I don't understand their needs either.
Yeah.
And so I was constantly butting heads with someone I didn't even know, and trying to fight this sort of phantom argument with a phantom. And it took me that long. I was much younger then, so a little hard-headed and maybe stubborn, and couldn't figure it out. But that stakeholder identification, once I figured it out, I knew I could take those things to that person and bring them up to speed before it became a yes or no decision in a tense executive meeting. And that helped significantly. It helped me a lot get things pushed through. And also to know like what we shouldn't push through. Like you said earlier, when you were talking about agency versus advertiser and seeing the bigger picture. As an affiliate manager, it helped me see the bigger picture in the organization.
For sure.
So now we're in Q4. We are planning and adjusting. Have you noticed with COVID and everything that's going on, has the planning cycle shortened significantly to you have to plan but adapt very quickly because especially over the next week or two, right?
Right.
Have you noticed that things have the cycle of planning has shrunk? How has it changed?
I don't think that the cycle has really changed. We definitely are still. We're thinking about. You should be thinking about Q4. Halfway through the year or sooner. I think that
not right now, right? If it should have been done earlier.
Yeah, like you're really scrambling if it's the 2nd of November and you're not sure what the plan is. It's one thing to, make a plan and have it constantly be changing, which is definitely something that happens, I think, with everyone. You have to be limber. I think that hasn't changed. And that's definitely something that I think you kind of have to do for Q4 is leave a little bit of space to be limber, to take advantage of any last minute opportunities that might pop up. So like maybe you have allocated all of your spend already for the rest of the year, but maybe you should leave a little behind, or like one thing that is important is, to, do testing, especially we did a lot of testing throughout September, October, so that we could optimize through the rest of the year based off of what we learned. And that space that you leave to be limber, that's another opportunity where, if you did planning and you found a really great optimization, if you had already kind of allocated all of your budget to something else, then you don't have room to really, push through on that. I know last year we held back a little bit and of placement spend, and a big opportunity came up mid-November because, things happen. People have to drop out for whatever reason, and stuff comes up that ends up being a benefit if you are available and limber enough to jump on it. So I think there's definitely, I don't think it's changed much in that way, but I feel like this year it's important, especially important anyway, to be flexible with the plan.
Yeah, we had a coach that worked with us, and he talked always about being clear and open, clear with what the plan is now, and like completely open to being wrong, or it changing. So really clarity in what we think we should be doing and go forward with that, but more, like you said, flexibility in when new information is presented, we may have to change everything. And what we found is annual planning's kind of been out the window this year.
Yes.
I think the farthest look we're taking is like you said, you shouldn't be planning for for Q4 November 2nd. But we have seen that the look forward window kind of shrink from 6 months to like 3, and more constant review or frequent reviews of, okay, we made this plan and the world looked like X.
Right.
It's 2 weeks later. Are there any changes to X that will impact the plan?
Yeah. Yeah, no. It is especially an interesting time that we live in. There's so much that has changed in the last year that, if you had asked me in January what the plan is for Q4, I would have maybe had some idea, and it's just, everything is different. So definitely being adaptable is important this year more than ever, I would say.
And how do you start planning for something like Q4? What are your key elements in a plan?
Yeah, I think starting with like a really good just brainstorm session with the team as a whole is really smart, to build up some cohesive campaign themes, and then sort of build on that per channel. If you all plan separately, I feel like you're going to get a very disjointed look at things. Whereas, if everyone is on the same page with the idea and then building on that, it has been, in my experience, just like the most successful Q4s that I've seen. And then obviously many follow-up meetings, adjustments to the plan, and then aligning those goals with the budget really, that you have, and then changing it based off of forecast over and over again seems to be the way things go. But I think just starting as soon as it feels like a good time. Usually, I would say around July, and just it seems weird to think about Christmas in July, but you just got to do it.
Yeah, totally. Now, for someone who's listening to this and they're saying, July? I should have been planning in July. What should they do right now if they haven't really created a comprehensive plan? Do you have any lifeline to throw them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like even just reviewing what you did the last year and seeing if it makes sense to do some of it or all of it, or adjust some of it based off of what you did last year. You could throw together a pretty decent plan this time. For me, like getting stuff on the calendar in July seems ridiculous, but it's sometimes it's so hard to get everyone on the same page and aligned that like you put it on the calendar, so just so people start thinking about it. And even if you don't end up having a meeting until 2 or 3 weeks later, because obviously it gets deprioritized pretty quickly when things are on fire.
Yeah.
So just making sure that it's have it on the calendar and have people thinking about it, and a place for people to even just start putting their ideas together on all in one place, that kind of thing. Because you never know when inspiration's going to strike.
Yeah, and when we talk about trust too, the person managing the program can build trust in just how they're going about managing the channel and planning ahead. Can go a long way to that. And you also spoke about sort of bringing everyone up to speed, educating them on the opportunities with the channel. And if you're planning that far ahead, that can definitely do that. And if you haven't planned far ahead, looking at what you've done last year, and kind of building from there. And there's always opportunities. I mean, maybe they're not fantastic and they're the ideal positions on every affiliate, but there is always opportunities to find and discover in the last couple of weeks. Although if you're still sitting on your laurels now, you don't have much more time left.
Yeah.
So Black Friday, I've had some conversations, and how do you think that's going to plan out? Is it a day now? Is Cyber Monday its own day? Is that even a thing this year? Is it just what's going on? What's going to happen? Is it just a season now?
I feel like it's been this way for a while in terms of, Black Friday starts on Monday and Cyber Monday turns into Cyber Week. And, as marketers, I feel like we're really pushing it in terms of what we can get away with. And I don't think this year will be any different. I think, if anything, I feel like people are going to be pulling a lot of those sales earlier, because like you want people to spend your money on theirs, like spend your money now on me, and then then you don't have to, there's no less opportunity for you somewhere else, kind of thing. So I don't think that is going to be any different. I feel like that's something that happens every year, trying to pull sales from December to November and things like that. So I just do think it's going to be a pretty big year all around. I mean, everyone being at home and doing most of their shopping online. So it should be a pretty interesting year.
It's definitely growth in e-commerce this year. And I think, it'll be, I think those 2 days will be less and less of a thing going forward. And maybe COVID killed one of them. Cyber Monday used to be, when we get to work on Monday after Black Friday, and we find all the sales and everything.
Uh-huh.
And no one's going into the office
Right.
like they used to. So
Yeah.
maybe I wonder if, looking maybe 2 years from now, if that changes, seeing how people will work differently.
Yeah.
We are fully remote, closed our office and stored it for at least 2021.
Yeah.
And so, we don't experience that. And I know a lot of people do. So it's definitely a different year. Now, one of the things you enjoy the most are new partnerships, new ways to do business in the affiliate channel. What are some of the unique things that you've been able to do or you've seen this year that are exciting you?
Yeah, this is definitely my favorite part of the channel, has just always been working with the people that we work with. And really just the affiliates are just always finding new ways to, carve out a space for themselves, I feel like. And they're so creative and innovative that it just makes it an exciting channel to work in. You just never know, what they're going to come up with next. And I feel like I'm just constantly being impressed by, affiliates' ingenuity and just, again, their ability to hone in on their own audience and build a niche even. They make affiliate marketing look easy, but I don't think it is from the publisher side.
Yeah.
But
I've tried to be a publisher and I'm not very good at it.
yeah, it's like, it seems so easy when you see people like with a simple website making lots of money and you're like, I could do this. And you're like, actually, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. But I think more recently, something that I've noticed is there's a lot of affiliates who are really building their own like platform of people and with the Facebook groups and things. And I think that they're using those audiences to do really, cool things and more, like the Facebook groups and it's more social, I think, than I've ever seen it be it's been a long time since I've seen a lot of, Facebook stuff like be successful, but I think people are really found their niche and with the groups and things. And then also like I had one affiliate who has like this really big, social audience in like Minneapolis or something. And they did like an event that was really successful and really just like a lot of good stuff came out of that for like content and stuff. So things like that I think have been really interesting to see.
It's definitely allowed, more niche things to develop a following and a community.
Yeah.
I have a couple different hobbies, and each one is weird and unique in its own way.
Yeah.
And they all have groups that just someone started, and it's like, hey, I want to talk about this. And now advertisers are looking, okay, how can we get in there? How can we monetize? How can we ruin the whole thing and make it all about orders and revenue?
Exactly.
So last question before I let you go on this election eve. What do you see beyond next week? What do you see changing in the industry? What are trends that you're watching or you're excited for in 2021?
It's such a a different world from last year, and I think in 2021 we're really going to see more influencers and innovators really seizing this post-COVID life. With more online shopping and people spending more time online, there's just going to be more new creative ways to like monetize that, and I think that um, I feel like we're going to see a lot more. I mean, we have seen too, just a lot more affiliates shifting to like direct affiliate programs versus like Amazon, and I think that stuff is just going to continue. And I feel like it's possible that more companies will even adopt that strategy in terms of building their own affiliate programs. So, yeah, I think more stuff online. Like I feel like more tools or technology that's gonna make being online all the time more manageable somehow. And I feel like there'll be an affiliate who will figure that out and monetize it.
Yep. Jamie, thank you so much. If someone wants to get a hold of you, wants to talk to you about some of the things you mentioned today, what is the best way for them to find out more about you and get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Jamie Tapia Barr. I think my profile is that / Jamie Tapia Barr. Connect with me there. I'm usually pretty good at responding to inquiries there too, or email, or just shoot me an email. Probably be the best way.
Awesome. And we will include those in the description or the podcast notes from today. Really enjoyed this conversation, as I do every conversation that I get to have with you. It's been great to watch your career over the last 10 years, and you've been able to do some amazing things, and see you go over to the East Coast and come back. So I thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Really enjoyed it, and lots of great, insightful information for me, and I'm sure the listeners as well.
Great. Well, thanks again for having me, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Wow, that was a great episode. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. There were so many good tidbits of information in that podcast. One of the ones I want to point out that helped me was how to plan and what Jamie does to get started. So a cross-channel look at this planning is definitely something that she recommends, and I'm right there with her. So start with a brainstorming that includes those other channels, cohesive campaign thinking and planning, looking across multiple channels, a coordinated planning across those channels and with those other channel owners, and then aligning the goals with the budget. One of the things we talked about in this podcast is really being flexible. Jamie talked a lot about being limber and flexible and really watching what's going on. And I can't thank her enough for sharing that with us. So if you need assistance in any of these kind of things, and you want to know what flexibility looks like in your planning of your affiliate program, definitely there are several ways you can get a hold of me and we can help. You can email me at gethelp@JEBCommerce.com. You can also go to calendly.com/Jamie Birch, and there you can pick some time and put some time on my calendar with me, free, no obligation at all. We can talk about your Q4 planning, about how to take advantage of the next few months, maybe how to plan for next year. Whatever you need, you can set time aside, and I have made that available for you. Again, Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. And if you found this podcast episode helpful, please share it. Post it on Facebook, send it to someone you think would benefit from it, and definitely give us a review, a 5-star review on the podcast player of your choice. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode.